And Gus doesn't trust you, so I gotta go.
Everyone calls Gus Fring a criminal mastermind, but the truth is, he wasn't half as smart as you think. The debate over whether Walter White was smarter than Gustavo Fring usually devolves into two camps.
You're the goddamn Iron Chef. Every jibhead from here to Timbuktu is gonna want to taste.
Those who credit Walt with sheer genius, and those who write him off as the luckiest cancer patient alive. The truth, inconvenient as always, lies in the messy middle.
But I prefer to see it as the study of change.
Walter White was brilliant, but reckless. Gustavo Fring was disciplined, but blinkered. And both men were undone as much by their flaws as by their enemies. Let's start with Walt.
But whatever he became...
On paper, he's the smartest man in Breaking Bad. A world-class chemist who laid the groundwork for a billion-dollar company, he could have spent his life inventing things that changed humanity.
Considered his signature product.
Instead, he invented blue meth and a series of disasters. Walt's genius was narrow but spectacular. He could explain neuroscience at dinner, geology in casual conversation, and still find time to build an automated machine gun turret in his basement. But for all his brilliance, he was an emotional live wire, prone to impulsive decisions that spiraled into catastrophe.
This is not meth.
His great strength was improvisation. Corner him with Tuco Salamanca and he'll invent "that's not meth." Trap him with Gus's empire and he'll figure out how to weaponize a bell.
It's gonna happen, okay?
Jesse.
Walt thrived in chaos, manipulating circumstances that should have killed him, but long-term strategy, abysmal. He rarely thought more than a move ahead, and his empire, such as it was, crumbled within 2 years.
The Terminator shit, walking right into the bullets.
Compare this to Gus Fring, the poster child for composure. Gus played the long game, cultivating an image of stability, respectability, and terrifying caution. He spent decades constructing a criminal empire under the DEA's nose, outmaneuvering both the cartel and U.S. law enforcement.
I tried to solve this myself, but I can't get anywhere near him.
His calm, consistent intelligence made him appear untouchable, yet his meticulous nature concealed fatal weaknesses. He was predictable, bound by grudges, and ultimately unable to let go of his vendetta against Hector Salamanca.
He has been 10 steps ahead of me at every turn.
Gus's great sin wasn't underestimating Walt, it was overestimating himself. He believed Jesse could be turned, that Hector could be toyed with indefinitely.
And Gus doesn't trust you, so...
And that Walt was too small to pose a threat. It was a spectacular miscalculation. Walt spotted his weakness, exploited Hector's hatred, and orchestrated one of television's most operatic exits.
Why, in God's name, would I poison a child?
Call it the child poisoning gambit, or perhaps just Walt's gambit. The nursing home explosion that reduced Gus Fring from untouchable godfather to smoking crater. Luck? Yes. Genius? Also yes. This dynamic highlights the essential difference between the two men. Walt had higher highs and lower lows, brilliance punctuated by disaster. Gus was steady, controlled, and consistent, until the day he wasn't. Walt destroyed Gus in less than 2 years. Gus had spent 2 decades building what Walt unraveled. Walt's volatility made him impossible to predict. Gus's rigidity made him predictable once the right chink in his armor was found. Critics often insist Gus was the true genius because he built an empire, while Walt merely tore it apart. But let's not romanticize. Gus was no Edison. He didn't design his super lab. Werner Ziegler did.
This is glass grade.
He didn't develop his product. Walt did.
Yo me encargo.
He was, at best, the financier with good business instincts and a flair for vengeance. He was also reckless, ordering the murder of a child dealer the same day he staged a peace accord.
I will kill your wife.
Needlessly antagonizing Walt and Jesse, and ultimately threatening Walt's family. A move so short-sighted, it sealed his fate. The irony is that both men were driven not by pure intellect, but by emotion.
I did it for me.
Walt cloaked his ambition in claims of family loyalty, when in reality, it was pride and ego driving him. Gus, despite his reputation as cold and clinical, was motivated almost entirely by vengeance for a murdered lover. For all their cerebral gamesmanship, Each man was undone by the oldest story in the book. Unchecked emotion disguised as rational strategy. Luck played its part, of course.
He killed one outright. The other one's upstairs in critical condition.
Walt survived the cousins by sheer accident. He avoided DEA suspicion, largely because his brother-in-law, Hank, was too blinded by family ties to consider the obvious.
La única razón por la cual
Gus survived Don Eladio only because the man was curious enough to let him live. To argue one man had luck while the other had skill is disingenuous. They both had a golden horseshoe lodged firmly where the sun doesn't shine. So who was smarter? Scientifically, Walt. Strategically, Gus.
99.1%.
Walt had the raw horsepower. Gus had the discipline.
Listen to me, Walt.
One could say Walt was Rain Man brilliant, but utterly incapable of running a sustainable operation. Gus was a master administrator, but not an innovator.
Fulminated mercury.
Walt was chaos incarnate. Gus was order embodied.
I am the danger.
Walt was reckless genius. Gus was meticulous pragmatism.
You are a time bomb.
The final word belongs to Mike Ehrmantraut, who famously described Walt as a time bomb. And that's the truth. Walt was smarter than Gus, but his intelligence was destructive rather than creative. He didn't build, he exploded. Gus built a multinational empire under impossible conditions. Walt toppled it with a single, desperate gamble.
I ain't doing nothing to him.
Who knows with this guy?
That doesn't make Walt more cunning. It makes him more dangerous. In the end, their duel was less about intelligence and more about human weakness.
Casa Tranquila.
What's Casa Tranquila?
Gus couldn't let go of revenge. Walt couldn't let go of ego. Each man thought himself invincible until the other proved otherwise.
The moral of the story is, I chose a half measure.
And in their mutual destruction, Breaking Bad offered the most honest depiction of intelligence on television. Genius is not enough. Without discipline, it is a weapon pointed at one's own head. Walt built bombs. Gus built systems. Both blew up. Subscribe for more.